Shivam Dubey from English Kingdom Katra, Prayagraj. Welcome to the class. We are here to be continue with Thomas Stearns Eliot and his piece, The Wasteland, where we are studying the wasteland, and in our study we have completed the three parts of this poem. We already know that the whole poem is divided in 5 parts. So in our study, we have completed the first part, that's the burial of the dead. The second part was a game of chess. And the third part was the fire sermon that had been completed. And today, we will go for a shorter, the shortest piece of the section, that will be the fourth section. That's death by water. Good evening, Vinay, and God bless you, Din Dayal. And after that, what the thunder said. That will be the last part of our discussion today, and we'll discuss that as well in the class. So, especially as I told you, that today's discussion is going to be the topic, and that is death by water. Death by water. That's from the wasteland. Okay. Before we start the poem, and it's a text, we have to go to the question session, where I will put some questions related to, good evening, Suman, related to the poem and the works of Thomas Stearns Eliot that we have studied so far in the class. And yes, that's something very interesting to be learning a very complex poet like T.S. Eliot in the class so continuously. Here we will start with the questions, and the first question of the day is, what was the name of the mother of T.S. Eliot? What was the name of the mother of T.S. Eliot? Simply, you will have to tell the name of the mother of T.S. Eliot. That's a simple question, and I know that's going to be great joy. Well, so the answer is there from Deen Dayal and is followed by Vinay, and they have answered it correct. That's it's a Charlotte. So it's exactly Charlotte Shamp Stone. That was the name of the mother of T.S. Eliot. Now it is Ajay. He has also answered it correct. That's the Charlotte Shamp Stearns was the mother of T.S. Eliot. Okay, moving to the next question. What's the name of the stories that had been inspiring for T.S. Eliot during his childhood? That's a good one, Mohit, Suman. Good evening, Ajay. God bless you, Mohit. What's the name of these stories? What's the name of the stories that had been very inspiring to T.S. Eliot from his childhood that he used to be reading, used to be studying? The name of the stories that Thomas Stearns Eliot used to be studying from his childhood. Come on, dear. I think that's an easy question. Good evening, Archana. I think it's an easy question because I have asked this question about the story that had been inspiring. Oh, no. That's not my question, Suman. That's not my question. Deen Dayal. Well, exactly. That's a good one, Pon. Exactly, Tom Sawyer and his adventures that had been the stories that T.S. Eliot during his childhood used to read and that had been inspiring? Okay, well, what was the name of the first published piece of T.S. Eliot? What was the name of the first published? Exactly, Archana. What was the name of the first published piece of T.S. Eliot? That's a very basic questions. What the name of the book? Name of the poem. And that's here, that starts with Vinay, and that's a fable for feasters. That's the first published piece of T.S. Eliot. Now it is answered by Deen Dayal as well. So that's the correct answer. A fable for feasters is the correct one. Now more answers that come from Suman, Pawan, Archana and Mohit. They all have answered it correct. Okay, moving to the next. How many daughters of the Thames have been discussed by the end of the third section of the poem, The Wasteland? That's good one, Ajay. How many daughters of Thames had been discussed by the end of the third part of the poem, The Wasteland? No, Vinay, that's a mistake, beta. How many daughters have been discussed? I think you remember the song of the daughters. No, Mohit, that's the wrong one. No, Archana, that's the wrong one. Exactly, the three daughters are there. As you see, the three songs of the three daughters have been narrated. Well, not Vinay and Deen Dayal. They have answered it to be three daughters. Exactly, that's the correct answer. Three daughters of the Thames have been discussed here. Okay, what's the name of the work of Tennyson that inspired one of the soft line from the poem, and especially the section, the Fire Sermon? What's the name of the work of Edmund Spenser? What's the name of the work of Edmund Spenser, whose line has inspired one of the soft line from the third section of the Wasteland Fire Sermon? Come on. The name of the work of Edmund Spenser. Remember, many a time it has been asked. Okay, so the answer is here from Archana, and she is followed by Uday. They have answered it correct, that it is Prothalamion. Now it is Supriya. She has also answered it correct. That's it, Prothalamion. That's the work of Edmund Spenser that inspired the line in the poem. Okay, Mohit and Suman, they have also answered it correct. That's the Prothalamion. Now I'll move to the next one. What's the name of the work that inspired the title of the poem, The Wasteland? That's a good one, Vinay. What's the name of the work that inspired the title of the poem, The Wasteland? Come on. Come on, it's a very easy question. What's the name of the work that inspired the title of the poem, The Wasteland? Okay, that's a good one. So right answer comes here from Vinay. And he has answered that it is Wasteland by Madison Cohen. That's the correct answer. Mamta has just given the name of the writer. But my question was about the work. Now it is Uday. He has also answered it correct. That's the wasteland by Madison Coving. So that's the correct answer from him. Okay, now I'll move to the next question. What's the name of the author whose work, The Isle of Dogs, is found being used allegorically in the third section of the poem, The Fire Sermon, Wasteland? What's the name of the author? What's the name of the author of the play, The Isle of Dog, that had been used allegorically by T.S. Eliot in the third section of the poem, The Fire Sermon? We have seen the name on the screen that comes from Vinay, is followed by Uday, Deen Dayal, Archana. They have answered it correct with Suman, Mohit, Pawan. That's much better. That's very good. It's a Thomas Nash with Ben Johnson. That was collaboration. That's very good, Pawan. And Supriya and Ajay, they have just single answered it with Thomas Nash. Well, moving to the next question. When did T.S. Eliot go to attend the Merton College, Oxford in England? When did T.S. Eliot go to attend the Merton College, Oxford in England? Well, so answers are there on the screen, and that comes from Uday at first, and that is 1914. Now it is Vinay, Archana, Ajay, Suman, Pawan. They all have, oh, no, Ajay, check your answer, beta. Well, it's Mohit, Supriya, and Deen Dayal. They have answered it correct, that it's in 1914. That's the correct one. We'll move to the next. What was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot? That's a good one, Mamta. What was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot? Well, Astha, my question was about the second wife, not the first one. Okay, so here is right answer that comes from the India, Vinay. It's a Mohit. No, Mohit, that's the wrong one. Pawan Bhai, what is that? Shireen? Be careful, brother. It's Archana. So that's Valerie Fletcher. Ask me Valerie Fletcher. That's a good one. Ajay, Uday, Mamta, Supriya. They have answered it correct. That's Esme. Valerie Fletcher was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot. Now, Suman has also answered it correct, and that's a good one. Well, what's the name of the scholar who coined the term objective correlative? What's the name of the scholar who coined the term objective correlative? No, Supriya. Be very careful. It's not T.S. Eliot. Okay, we find the answer that comes from Uday. It's Washington Alston. That's the correct one. Washington Alston was the scholar who coined the term objective correlative. Now it's Vinay and Mohit. They also answered the correct one. We'll find some more answer from Deen Dayal, Archana, Ajay. They have also answered it correct. That's Washington Alston. We'll move to the next question. When was the poem, The Love Song of Jalpurpur Frog, published in collection? That's a good one, Vinay and Asta. And Supriya, that's a good. When was The Love Song of Jalpurpur Frog published in a collection. Okay, we find answer on the screen that comes from Uday, and he has answered it to be 1917 with Ajay, Deendayal, Supriya. They all have answered it correct. That's 1917 is there. Well, now Suman, Archana and Mamta, they have also answered it correct. Moving to the next. Who was the reason behind the meeting of T.S. Eliot with his first wife, Viviani Highwood? That's good on Mohit and Pawan. Who was the reason, who was the source behind the meeting of T.S. Eliot with his first wife, Viviani Highwood? Okay, we find answers that starts there. No, Vinay, that's not a con. No, Archana, that's not a con. Well, it's a Thea, that's a Scofield Thea, and that is started with Asta, and she is followed by Uday, Mohit, and Ajay. No, Supriya, it's not Conrad a con. Okay, so that's a correct one. Well, no, Deendayal, it's not John Watting. Okay, that's a good Archana. It's Scofield Thea, who became the reason behind the meeting of T.S. Eliot with his first wife, Viviani Highwood. Okay, well, now I'll move to the next question. That's a good one, Suman. And the next question is here. What's the name of the lady who actually wanted to marry with T.S. Eliot after his first wife breathed her last? What was the name of the lady who actually wanted to get married with T.S. Eliot after the death of the first wife of T.S. Eliot? Okay, we find answers on the screen that starts with Asta. And now it's Vinay, Archana, Deendayal, Supriya, Mamta, Uday, Ajay, Mohit. They all have answered it correct. That's Mary Travelin. That was the girl. Now it is Pawan and Suman. They have also answered it correct to be Mary Travelin. That's the correct one. Moving to the next question, and that is here. What's the name of the place where T.S. Eliot could meet for the first time? Scofield Thayer. What's the name of the place where T.S. Eliot could meet for the first time? Scofield Thayer. Okay, you find the answers. That starts with Uday, followed by Deendayal, Archana, Asta. They all have answered it correct that it is Milton Academy where he could meet his friend and who could be the inspiration behind the publication of The Wasteland as well, Scofield Thayer. Okay, now it's Ajay. He has also answered it correct. We'll move to the next question. And the next question is here. What's the name of the part of the poem by T.S. Eliot's Wasteland that has the line that's very much reminiscent of the Vicar of Wakefield by Goldsmith? One lovely woman stoops to folly. One lovely woman stoop to folly, which work of T.S. Eliot's section of The Wasteland has this piece? when lovely women stoop to folly. We have seen that it is Astha. She has answered it first on the screen, but she has answered it wrong, and she is followed by wrongly by Archana and Mohit and Uday. So right answer is here, that starts with Vinay. No, Supriya, that's wrong. Dindayal, that's wrong. And now it's Mamta. That's correct. The fire sermon. Pon, it's a wrong beta. It's not from the game of chess. Exactly. It's from the fire sermon. That's a beautiful line from the Oliver Goldsmith's Vicar of Wakefield. When lovely woman stoops to folly. That is. Well, moving to the next now, Ajay and Suman, they have also answered. That's the fire sermon. For which genre of writing? For which genre of writing was T.S. Eliot given the Nobel Prize in 1948? For which genre of writing was T.S. Eliot given the Nobel Prize in 1948? Well, we find answers on the screen. That starts with Vinay and is followed by Uday, Asta, Archana, Mamta, Mohit. No, Pawan bhai, you are mixing the answers. Supriya, Suman, Dindayal, and Ajay. That's a good one. Exactly, the modern and present day poetry that he wrote was responsible behind his getting the Nobel Prize in 1948. Well, moving to the next. Which section of the wasteland almost opens with a line that had been allusionized from Antony and Cleopatra of Shakespeare? Which section of the poem The Wasteland almost opens with the line that had been taken from allusionized and that almost opens, and we find the answers on the screen. That comes from Asta, and she is followed by Uday and it's Vinay. They have answered it correct, that it is a game of chess that opens with almost the line from the statement that's very much similar from the work of Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra. And that's the answers from Asta, Uday, Vinay, Suman, Dindayal, Archana, Ajay, Mohit, Supriya. They all have answered. That's very good, Vinay. They all have answered it correct, that it is for the sense of sexual degradation that this had been used there. Now I'll move to the next. When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? Well, so the answers are there on the screen. That starts with Vinay, followed by Asta, Uday. Uday's unfinished one beta, Pawan, Dindayal, Ajay, Supriya, Archana. They have answered it correct. That's the 4th January 1965 that he breathed his last. Well, that's I think Mamta, you just check. I think you have written like 57. So carefully check it. Well, what's the name of the fashionable fortune teller from the first section of the poem, The Burial of the Dead? What's the name of the fashionable fortune teller from the first section of the poem, The Burial of the Dead? Okay, here is Ajay. He's answered it correct. No, Mohit. It's not Tarsias. Tarsias is the narrator of the third section, and my question is about the first, the burial of the dead. So, right answer is here from Ajay, is followed by Uday, Supriya, and Deen Dayal. They have answered it correct. That's Madam Susastris. She is a fashionable fortune teller from the first part of this poem, The Burial of the Dead. Now I'll move to the next question, and that is here. Well, what is the name of the character whom Tarsias knows? What's the name of the character whom Tarsias knows and he sees by the end of the first section of the poem, The Burial of the Dead? No, Astha, my question was not complete. By the end of the first section, Mr. Humanides is in the third section, and so be very careful. My question is about a friend of Tarsias who we see by the end of the first section, The Burial of the Dead. What's the name? Waiting for your answers. It's an easy one, and you can easily answer. Well, I think you should answer. No, Devai. Mrs. Potter is a lady, and she wasn't friend of Tarsias. Actually, it was Stetson, if you remember. Stetson is by the end of the poem, and the first section of the poem actually. That's The Burial of the Dead. So Stetson is there. That it was a friend of Tarsias whom he know well. Now I'll move to the next. That's a good one, Vinay and Uday. The next question is here. Where was the title, A Game of Chess, for the second section of the poem The Wasteland taken from? Where was the title, A Game of Chess, for the second section of the poem The Wasteland was taken from? Okay, so that's good, Astha, but that's the name of the author. So name of the work should be told if the source of the title has been asked. Exactly, it's the Thomas Middleton, and there was his work that was actually the source for the title. Well, so here is a Vinay, has answered it correct. That's Thomas Middleton and his work, Women Beware Women. That's good. Now Astha has also answered with Ajay. Okay, Uday, Women Beware Women. So that had been a good answer. Exactly, Archana. That's Thomas Middleton. Well, Mohit has also answered. While moving to the next, and that will be possibly the last question. When did T.S. Eliot join the publishing house There and There? I mean Faber and Faber, not There and Faber. When did T.S. Eliot join Faber and Faber, the publishing house? That's the last question from the question session. And we see some answers on the screen, and that starts with Uday and is followed by Pawan. They have answered that it is 1925, and now it's Deen Dayal, Vinay, Archana, Ajay. They have also answered it correct. That's 1925. No, 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 Supriya, no, Mamta. Check it, beta. Okay, so Mohit has also answered it 1925, and that's the correct one. Well, what is that? Asta, did you answer 29? Okay, that's the error, beta, not 29. Well, Mamta has answered it correct. That's it's Pawan Bhai, what is that? Well, oh, no, 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 it's not 29, it's a 25 that he joined, favor and care. And later on, the name was changed to be favor and favor. So right answer is 1925. Okay, now I'll move to the fourth section of the poem that is here, The Death by Water. If you remember, the last day when we were there to be closing, you see that there was song sung by the three daughters of Thames, and they actually narrated the story of their being raped. What to say? I cannot say that rape is the right word there, because none of them, whether it was willingly or unwillingly, they established their relationship, but they are not sorry. They are not sorry about being physically involved with someone whom possibly they don't know, or the someone who made them to feel ashamed of themselves. It's not that they feel. In fact, through that, T.S. Eliot tried to show that water that symbolized the purity was in fact impure. The daughters of Thames, if symbolically we are talking, so daughters of Thames cannot be actually the daughters, but it can be the girls who keep moving, the girls who keep moving around the seashore or the very bank of the river Thames, and they lose their virginity meeting even unknown people over there. I think we have discussed that it was not only the present era where sexuality is just taken as a part of pleasure, as a part of sport, but even in old days when he discusses Queen Elizabeth and Queen Elizabeth and Leicester, he told us that such sexual unsocial relationship were even in old days or in 17th and 16th century. So it cannot be just the present era where we find the irresponsible fellows making frankly these relationships. After that, we found that there is a pathetic and almost kind of apologizing statement and the line that are taken from the Confessions of the Saint Augustine, and it seems that whole humanity was misled or almost leaving the place away. This actually the section by the end, and even in the fifth section of the poem we will find that the poet wants to tell that somewhere the whole society and community is living away from the right track. Right track means a world where one is afraid of one's God, one keeps faith in religious rituals, but according to him, due to modernity, there is a spiritual sterilization. There is no vitality, there is no life Vitality, life means, the incident of the typist, the girl typist, of being sexually involved with a carbuncular. The sexual experience of even Tarsias, the sexual experiences of these three daughters of the Thames, what they all tell. They all tell that they make sexual relationship without emotion. There wasn't any emotion. So in fact, even sex has lost its a passion, its a emotion. It's a just part of life, or we can say just hunger of body and nothing as a connection with the emotion of human being. In old days, it was full of morality and full of emotion, full of passion. But in modernity, these things are kept aside. Just keeping themselves free is an opinion. Well, by the middle of the third section, we found that there was a sailor, there was a merchant, Eumenides, whom he met, Tarsias met, and according to the record, we could just guess possibly they had been involved in physical relationship, or somehow we can say they would have experienced homosexuality as well, as this describes. So death by water is a kind of title that tells us the water that gives us life, the water that makes us feel pure, the water that is used to wash our body clean. The same water is sometimes used to make us dirty. The same water is used to make us sexually excited. The same water is full of oil and tar, if you remember by the third section. Impurity is there in the water. The water that was life, becomes death. So the fourth section, the shortest section of the piece is here, death by water. Well, once again it seems that Tarsias is there, and narration. Phlebas the Phoenician, a fortnight dead. The story is about Phlebas. He introduces that the Phlebas was a Phoenician sailor, and he was once young, once handsome. This is the very process of life. Phlebas was a Phoenician, he was a sailor, and he was dead for a fortnight. We all know that fortnight means 15 days. The collection, like a week means 7 days, month almost 30 days. In the same way, fortnight is 15 days. So Phlebas sailor's death has been discussed in the fourth section and the very opening line of the section, Death by Water. Phlebas the Phoenician, a fortnight dead, forgot the cry of girls. Okay, after the death, we forget everything. Means whatever is our important things when we are living, when we have a life, when we have birth, when we have vitality, when we have energy, all things seems to be important. If you remember, these sea gulls are actually kind of bird that when on the sand of the shore keep moving, they make beautiful sound. They are running, moving, all used to give the joy to this sailor. Especially this sailor kept navigating, this sailor kept moving in his boats or ships, and many a time he got a chance to hear the cry, the sound of these seagulls. But now he is dead. But now he is dead and he cannot feel anything, he cannot listen anything. So the cry of the girls are actually meaningless for this young. Some days he was young, right? He will explain. After some time he will explain that the man who is once young will have to be old someday. The man who is living today will die someday. This is very process of life. I told you the same water gives us life. And the same water becomes the reason of our death as well. So everything has its routine of life and death. Nobody is going to be permanently here. The same is about Phlebas. He was sailor, he kept moving, but now he is no more. And his death has almost taken 15 days back. Forgot the cry of girls, and the deep sea swells, and the profit and loss. Deep sea swells, swell in the sense of high waves. Okay, when Phlebas was young, he used to be moving from one place to the next place. Like Ulysses, he was traveling, he was voyaging, he was navigating, he was trying to reach new land, new people, new culture. And many a time he got chance to have a challenge made by the high waves. If you remember, this can be similar to the explanation where Tennyson describing the nature of Ulysses in the poem Ulysses describes that Ulysses enjoyed and felt both, means enjoyed and suffered greatly when he was either alone or sometimes in company. He could enjoy the bliss of looking at the sail almost rhythmically moving the waves of the sea. But sometimes when there is a rainy heights, if you remember, when there is a rainy heights, there is a heavy rain and cause some disturbance in the sea. Even in that condition, when high waves are rising and falling, he have enjoyed. He had enjoyed actually in the past, and so is about the deep sea swell. Even today, after the death of this Phlebas, the movement of the sea doesn't stop. It keeps going, it keeps moving, it doesn't stop here. And the profit and loss, remember, this is very truth. When we are alive, we think everything in terms of loss, in terms of benefit, in terms of everything that can make us feel like greedy man. We can feel like greedy man. But once we are dead, where is loss? Where is benefit? Then we don't think anything. Once we breathe our last, there's the end of all calculation. Who will calculate? After being dead, nobody will calculate. I cannot calculate. You cannot calculate. I must say, nobody can calculate. So this calculation is for this life. Phlebas, when he was living, he was adventurous. He loved facing difficulties. He kept moving on the waves of the sea. He kept disturbing the peace of the girls. But now, he kept earning more and more money. He was always worried about his loss. The same Phlebas is no more. And his death was by water. Remember, in the first section, when Madam Sastris was telling something as a future teller, she instructed a sailor not to go too close to the water. Remember? The statement or instruction from Madame Sosastris in the first part of the poem, The Burial of the Dead, she told that there is a sailor who shouldn't go so close to the water, and the sailor is Phlebas. The sailor is Phlebas. The one-eyed Eumenides was discussed in the first section. We found him in the third. Tarsias was discussed. We found him in the third. And now it's a Phlebas turn to be discussed in the fourth section, whose death was hinted by Madame Sosastris in the very first part when she instructed him not to go too close to the water. A current under sea pricked his bones in whispers. Well, possibly Phlebas breathed his last after being drawn in the water. He lost his bones as well. The sailor who used to go into the depth of the sea and pick some gems out of there. Now the same sailor, when he dies, because of his greed of loss and benefit, even sea is not ready to accept the bones of Phlebas. The current, the movement of the sea, the current and movement of the waves of the sea cannot keep this type of bones of such a greedy man, such a greedy sailor, who didn't sail on the floor of the water for the benefit of others, but always tried to pick some gems out of the sea, out of the depth of the sea for his benefit. So such selfish man cannot find a place even in the depth of the sea. So it seems like the waves are, if you remember, if you have ever seen the movement of the things if that are coming up, if you have seen, like suppose this is surface, okay, and suppose the bones are here on this hand, let's move. So the first wave will come and it will throw like this, then this wave will control, it will throw like this, and ultimately by the end it just makes it go out. That's how the current of the sea are not ready to accept even the bones of such greedy sailors in their world. As he rose and fell, remember in the first section, in the first part of this poem, of this section, it was the deep sea swell and he used to go. It was Phlebas who was riding the rising and falling waves of the sea. But now what? But now what? The things are over. Now the waves of the sea are not going to accept the bones of his. As he rose and fell, he rose and fell, is talking about Phlebas. And through his bones, not personally, because Phlebas is dead for 15 days. It's not Phlebas personally, but his bones are there that are symbolizing his presence. And the sea is like playing in a playing mood, sportive mood, like throwing up and down the bones and finally out of the sea. They're not going to accept such a greedy man. So the rise of, he rose and fell, he passed the stage of his age and youth. Remember, everyone has his time. You cannot just say that just you are young. Everyone come to his age, like his birth, like his age, like his youth, like living his youth. We cannot say that youth is for the saintly. deeds. Definitely, youth is the time when one has to act. Now, it depends on us which kind of action do we decide for our life. Sometimes it's the action of the welfare, sometimes it's a religious action, sometimes we go for the welfare of other people. Means any kind of thing like this can be the part of our life. So everybody reaches that stage. It's not just only Phlebas. Phlebas is a common human being. He had his birth. He had his own thought of running his business. He reached his peak. He touched the height of his success, lived his youth, and youth entering the whirlpool. But one day, in his youth, he entered the whirlpool. Now, whirlpool is meaningful here. Why I want to say that it's a meaningful? Because whirlpool can be in one way, it's just the violent movements of the waves. He was just man, was moving from one place to the next place, was taking his ship, he was just making business, he was just worrying about his gain, never thought about loss. The same man who never thought about loss has lost his life. So what is more important than life for a man? I must say, it's our life that we love a lot. If you remember, there is a reference of this life when we find the description of the ten of Cawdor from Macbeth, where Malcolm, the eldest son of King Duncan, describes how the former Thane of Cawdor confessed his treason and accepted to be hanged and left his life in such a way like he never loved it. Do we all know, above everything on this earth, we all love our life. But what about this Phlebas? He was a man who was earning, and once he was in a whirlpool of the wind. Once he was caught, he couldn't come out. So earning becomes the end. He lost his life in that whirlpool. That's the very word-to-word explanation, because he was sailor and he went for his earning. He tried to find some jewels from the very depth of the sea, and in a whirlpool he was caught and he died, even after the instruction of Madam Susastris. Remember Madam Susastris? She informed him not to go there, but he went there. Why? Because something is predestined. She knew it is just our human caution. It is just our human caution. We take care of not to going too close to the water and such things. But the thing that are pre-decided to happen on a particular phase of time, that will happen whatever caution has been taken, whatever careful steps has been taken. Now, if away from this word-to-word explanation, we can take this whirlpool metaphorically. Why Phlebas died? Because of his greed. And what is greed? This is the moment of the life. We all think about earning, we all think about loss, losing and earning. These are the 2 points that we discuss. And no one of us ever thinks in the terms of loss. That is our greed. And just for his greed, since he was caught in the very whirlpool of his greed, remember, Now metaphorical explanation. Just he was caught in the whirlpool of his greed. Phlebas meets his end. So the two meaning of whirlpool can be, you can just correlate it with the line of P.B. Shelley from his Ode to the West Wind, if you remember. Oh, I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed, the heavy weight of horse chained and bobed one to tameless like thee. You remember? This beautiful line tells us how in our life, though we know we cannot save ourselves, we are caught by the throes, by the expectations, by the desires of life, getting and getting and getting. Remember William Wordsworth, getting and spending. This is what the throes of our life, this is what our passion of life, and that is the whirlpool he is talking. For a businessman, this getting and spending is like whirlpool, and one day we all, in fact, not only about sailor only, not only about a businessman, I can say one day we all breathe our last doing our business of benefit, benefit, benefit. Nothing else. We are never ready to accept our defeat or accept our loss, gentle or you. Okay? Now you can understand the two contrary images for Christianity. If it is gentle, it means Christian. If it is you, it means someone who is cruel. Because we all know, according to Christianity, the Jews are still considered to be the men who were reason behind the death of Jesus. So any kind of man, means whether it's a kind man or it's going to be a cruel man. Everywhere, if you have read Shakespeare's work, you have seen Shylock there. Shylock is also a Jew. He is a greedy, and in his greed he lost his daughter, if you remember. Remember? That was his whole life. And the same way, different kind of greed. Remember, I cannot say that Antonio was greedy in the terms of material prosperity, but he was greedy in the terms of finding the love of his friend Bassanio. So greed is greed. Greed is greed. If one loves someone more than anything else, one day one has to face these things. That's very done. So whether it's a gentle or a Jew, or you whom turns the wheel, well, remember, we all human beings think that we can turn the wheel of our destiny. We all think that destiny is in our hand. So what we do? We just wake up, we start reading, we start teaching, we start learning, we start doing something like the maker of our lot. But remember, there was Phlebas as well. Phlebas was also a human being. He was also trying to make his lot. But what was the result? He couldn't make his lot. He couldn't survive for long. Even after the instruction of Madame Sosostris, he could not save his life. In something that's a predestined will take place. Whether one worries or not, whether one thinks or not, doesn't matter. The things that are predestined will take place. To you whom turn the wheel, that's about it's an addressation actually. Addressation to the all young men. All young men who are actually running after money. All who are trying to make their own fortune by their own deed, by their own effort. the men who believed in active duties and looked windward. They look to windward means the wind going the same direction they are living. What is that? The trend of the time, the business of the time. You know, once one is businessman, in the same direction all businessmen ran. This happens. So they are the men of the deed. They cannot just take rest, they cannot be stopping, they just cannot be sleeping. They will just keep moving like active men and always trying to make their own fortune, their own destiny. Consider Phlebas. All those who are involved in their greedy collection of money, never forget. There was another man, Phlebas, he also decided to go for his money. Throughout his life, he worked hard. Who was once handsome and tall as you. Don't think only you. It means the last line are addressation to all the readers. Don't think only you are young. Don't think only you are handsome. Being handsome, being young doesn't mean. Being always active in their earning is not going to have some meaning for death. Because anybody, if Phlebas can die, very active man, if Phlebas can die, anyone can die. We can die, you can die, everything on this earth can meet its ending. So, don't worry. Now it's the time to take rest. Because one cannot secure his life, one cannot secure his prosperity and peace by earning money. There is something else that one has to earn. What else? That we will see in the next section, because now the death is there. In the next section, we will find some prophecies what the thunder said. So that's all from me for this fourth section, death by water. And I think you may have enjoyed, some senses may have touched you. Thanks a lot for watching. Keep watching, keep learning, and keep working hard. Thank you. Thank you very much.